about the show. The last week's show, we had a show on water. It's a third-part series on water and how the miracle water, how polluted water is, and then more importantly, how to purify the water with great companies that are out there to help people look for ways to help them purify the toxic water that's out there. Continuing on that basis, the next thing would be water, would be air, and how toxic air is, and how polluted air is. And that is so important for us to breathe in nice, healthy air. That's why when we go away, we go to the forest, we go to the oceans, to the lake. You know, why does it makes us feel so relaxed? It makes us feel so energized, so energetic and all. It's because we're breathing in all this great, nice oxygen. The body's composed of main elements. One is definitely water, which is so important to have clean water that you drink, because you're at least 70, 80% water. Some of us might be 90% water. And the other element is air. If you look at our lungs, those are the biggest organs within our body, and it's to absorb oxygen, to bring into the cells so you can have energy, and you can also have cleansing out. So again, air, it is so important. And saying all this, at this point, I want to bring in my guest, and his name is Dr. Roy Speiser, and he's with CWRENVIRO, and that's CWREnviro.com. And are you on the show here with us, Dr.
Yes,
Speiser?
hi, Alex. Nice to be on your show.
Great, great to have you on the show. Dr. Speiser, we want to talk about a little bit, we talked in the last 3 episodes or so about water, how toxic water is, and you did an incredible, great explanation of what's going on out there. And now the next most important thing is air. I mean, air is another so important part of us, especially in our well-being, especially in our health care. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, and then, what is the status, what's going on with our air quality now?
Well, first, Alex, I mentioned before my background as a biochemist, a healthcare practitioner. I worked for the Department of Health in New Jersey as a bacteriologist, so I have a lot of different hats over the years. And where I focus on now over the last over 20 years is more in indoor air and water quality, because we live in a very toxic environment. We're exposed to a lot of different toxic substances in our air and water, and it's impacting our health tremendously. Now, there was a recent analysis done by the charity Children with Cancer in England, and they studied environmental factors in health over a period of 16 years. And they found that the impact of environmental toxic substances in our air and water have caused a 40% increase in childhood leukemia. That's just one study. That's pretty shocking. And basically they stated that there's no doubt that environmental factors are playing a big role in childhood leukemia. So this is just one of the issues, the health issues that have come up as a result of our exposure to these toxic contaminants throughout our lifetime. So you have to understand that children being born today are being born into a much more toxic world than it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Because for decades, industries have dumped toxic waste into our water and our air. They polluted our lakes, streams, and rivers. Our oceans are polluted. Last year they had Fukushima, which was a huge toxic event, which spewed radioactivity across from Japan into the United States, particularly on the West Coast. These are extremely dangerous substances that will cause almost immediate negative impacts on our health. So the air pollution, and that was one extreme case where, the air the jet stream carried these radioactive particles all the way from Japan into the United States. It landed on our ground, on the United States ground. It got into the water. It's gotten into the milk supply at the time. And this is things like radioactive cesium, radioactive iodine. Those are really dangerous radioactive particles. That's one extreme form of air pollution. And these events have happened before, but more importantly, on a regular basis, we're exposed to a lot of different toxic substances in the air. Now, recently, September 29th this year, the World Health Organization released a country estimate on air pollution throughout the world. They really had an intense study of over 3,000 rural and urban locations, and they used satellite measurements, air transport models, and ground station monitors to monitor the air quality throughout the world. And what they confirmed was that 92%, that's 92% of the world's population lives in areas where the air quality level is not healthy. That's 92% of the world population lives in places where the air quality levels of contaminants is not healthy. That's according to the World Health Organization. And according to their estimates, where you live in areas where there are air pollution danger spots, this is a very harmful effect on our health. As a matter of fact, they're estimating that on a yearly basis, as of 2012, if you combine outdoor air pollution with indoor air pollution, they're stating that an estimated 6.5 million deaths were associated with indoor and outdoor air pollution. That's astounding. 6.5 million deaths worldwide were associated with indoor and outdoor air pollution. That's unbelievable. That in itself tells you that, not only is a water toxic, but our air is toxic. So most of the time we spend indoors, 90% of our time we spend indoors, and your lungs, your sinuses, your entire respiratory and circulatory system are constantly being attacked by microscopic contaminants, such as bacteria, viruses, mold spores, very fine particles of dust, pollen. You have gases, even asbestos. If you live near highways, you have asbestos from brake linings, and chemicals. And these irritants can wreak havoc on your health, and it can trigger off a lot of issues, health issues like allergies, asthma, sinus problems, and breathing problems. Even cardiovascular issues are related to very fine particles, ultrafine particles. So air pollution is a big factor that can really, over a long term in itself, damage your health, particularly the respiratory system and the cardiovascular system. Mm-hmm. So you have to understand that breathing in pure, unhealthy air right in your home is very likely causing a lot of your illnesses. So let's look at some of the daily things that we're exposed to. For example, one of the studies that I read found over 200 different chemical substances in the average indoor air. Let me repeat that. Over 200 chemicals were found in the average indoor air. Now, where do they come from? Well, let's start with cleaning agents. Your window cleaners, your furniture polishing substances. If you go out and get dry cleaning, when you bring dry cleaning back, the plastic bags and the dry cleaning solutions outgas in your closet, in your house. I mentioned in a previous interview that chlorine, when you take a shower or a bath, it outgasses chlorine gas that can permeate throughout your house. Those are coming from the water that when you turn on a tap. If you're not drinking filtered water or you don't have filtered water in your house, the chlorine and even chemicals, when you take a shower at 100 degrees, can outgas. You can breathe them in, and they can waft throughout the house. So you're exposing other family members in the house to harmful chemicals when you even take a shower. And this list just goes on and on.
You know what was interesting? So again, for the viewers and yourself, talking about the water when you take a shower and how it gives off of the chlorine and whatever gases is in there in the shower room. What was really interesting is that I have a daughter with autism, and we just got your shower filters, And we put it on there, and it was interesting because when my daughter, my wife had to bathe my daughter, and she's always like kind of like making some stemming noise, like she screams kind of, not too loud, but she stomps on the bathroom tub. And what was interesting is that I noticed is that now that we put the shower in there and we don't have this, we're not having the water, now it's being filtered. She's calm, really calm, and she don't stump on the shower thing. And my wife and I were saying, wow, this is really amazing. And again, we theorized that it was all from the chlorine vapor stuff that she was, and that's a neurotoxin, and that probably inflamed kind of her autism. And she was a lot calmer. So I just wanted to bring that up to everyone. That was pretty good news on that on our end there, Dr.
Well,
Speiser.
We've seen a lot of that anecdotally where clients of ours, and if you have already a respiratory condition, when they take a shower that's particularly high in chlorine, and it varies, the levels vary from season to season, particularly in the summer, we've had calls where the levels have gotten so high in a shower, just from taking a shower, people get neurological symptoms. They get headaches, they get dizzy. They actually it's a trigger for respiratory attacks. And we've seen that. I haven't seen any general studies on that, but there's been a lot of anecdotal evidence of that. It's been written out there, and I've seen it over the years. So without question, chlorine gas, it's a gas at about 100 degrees, will irritate your lung tissue. No question about it. It's absorbed through your skin. But in general, there's many other conditions that are affected by small particles, ultrafine particles. When I speak of ultrafine particles, we're talking about very, very tiny particles that get down into the bronchioles, way down into the lung tissue. These are not the big soot particles you see floating around. You can't really see them. They're not really visible. Some days you will see smog in some areas of the United States. When you see smog, those are, a combination of gases and particles. And that's very unhealthy. Ozone is very unhealthy to breathe in. So, there's a combination of various contaminants that are airborne, which we're breathing in every day and we're exposed to. Now, I'll give you another example. Let's say you work in an office. I've been into offices where they have a lot of copy machines, and they will, I'll walk in a room and I'm a little chemically sensitive. I'm very sensitive to odors, and it'll just knock you out because of all the chemicals that are being discharged just using copy machines. These are things that people are exposed to in offices every single day. You might be working in a big office building. One of the things that have come up recently, which I'm working on a project, is over the years they wanted to have these green buildings that were very energy efficient. Well, they don't have enough air circulation. They literally shut off the fresh air coming in, and it's a closed system.
Like you're in a plane.
To make it energy,
you're in an airplane.
Right, exactly. In a plane, that's another set of problems you can have on a plane, which I'll mention. But you're sitting literally in a box that's closed, and they've used these sealants like polyurethane. And if you go into a new building that's energy efficient, you're going to be breathing in all this outgassing from the polyurethane, from the carpets, from the paints, and this, these outgassing issues can go on for years. And this has been reported, sick building syndrome. It's a very common problem in a lot of buildings, even old buildings that have mold issues that create all kinds of respiratory problems. So there's a lot of areas, where you could be exposed to toxic substances in your office building, in your home, just going outdoors. You have to be aware of that. So it's a multiple-phase problem.
What about a new car?
Well, that's a good one. I just bought a new car several months ago, and that was an issue. I didn't buy leather seats because I don't like leather, but the outgassing was there, and I have a portable air filter I keep going day and night in there. It reduced the odors substantially. There are solutions, and before I get into the car, I turn it on, let the air conditioner run. I open the windows up, let the outgassing go out, and it's still a little residual in there. So yes, new car smells are definitely toxic outgassing from the carpets, from the seats, and the construction materials that make a car. This is very common.
What about Dr. Speiser? what about when people? I can't even get in when certain people have air purifiers, or air fresheners in their cars. The little air fresheners.
Yeah, air fresheners are actually chemical odors. They're chemicals, and they're fragrances that are created by chemicals. So unless it's some natural product, there are like essential oils that are a little bit different. Some people are a lot less sensitive to those, but those are natural scents coming from oils. But fragrances, most likely, I use them in bathroom fresheners, are VOCs. They're volatile organic chemicals. Those are very toxic. I don't use them. I don't recommend using them, especially if you have a health issue or you're chemically sensitive. It will irritate you, in some cases very severely.
Like myself, too, I'm very sensitive towards chemicals and smells. Like if you walk down the supermarket and you walk down the aisle with all the soaps and all it just drives me crazy. I can't walk down
that's very toxic. Absolutely. All those detergents, cleaning agents. Well, that's what I was saying earlier. Those types of chemicals you bring in your home and you use to clean your home. There could be tile cleaners. It could be granite cleaners. It could be window cleaners, floor cleaners, polishes. Those are all toxic chemicals, and they outgas. If you ever had your house cleaned by somebody as a service, they use chemical agents. And I don't use that because anyone that cleans my house has to use non-toxic cleaning agents. If you ever been in a hotel, when you come right into a hotel room after they've cleaned it, very toxic. Now, they do have some hotels now that are non-toxic rooms because, so many people have complained about it over the years. They actually have what's called pure rooms. And that's one of the companies I'm affiliated with. They clean the rooms with non-toxic agents. They put air filters in there. They don't use any chemical odors or fragrances. So, I think commercially hotels have become aware of the fact that air quality is an issue for a lot of people, and they have upgraded rooms that will give you, they're called pure rooms or allergy-free rooms. Very, very popular now. It's growing. So there's an awareness of this problem.
Being aware, and again, people, when they go to hotels, whatever, they should open up all the doors and windows and let the room at least air out. That definitely.
Well, that's hard sometimes because they're sealed windows. But I keep little portable air purifiers when I travel, and I keep it in my car all the time. You have to breathe with confidence, and you don't know what you're going to be exposed to. So when I get in my car, like I said, I air it out a little bit first. Then I put on my air purifier, let that run for a little bit, and I keep the circulation within the car. I don't want to breathe in fumes from the road or asbestos dust or any gasoline or diesel odors. That's what you're breathing in when you drive on a road. It can be irritating.
What about people?
If you look at
what about people also, like I wanted to finish up the topic with the air purifiers. The air things that they put out there in their cars, like a little pine, and they
air
kind of
fresheners,
air fresheners, and they put the little chemical looks like little glass little bottles,
like Christmas trees or whatever. They're really toxic. When I get my car cleaned by a service, I never put fragrance on ever.
And then
it's one thing you avoid.
People put that in their cars, and the car is like, and they're driving around with the windows closed with this air fresheners, and that's all chemicals, which are neurotoxins. And also, too, when people buy the same things, when they put them in their homes, you plug it into your outlets of your electrical outlets, and then they gush out all these chemicals. And that's also...
Well, believe it or not, there are actually some companies, most of these Chinese units, because they like those aromatic smells, they create these air filters with aromatherapy. And I don't recommend them. We can get into the solutions, but you're dealing with a lot of different contaminants. Again, like I said, dust, pollen, gases, asbestos, chemicals, even formaldehyde is still used in construction materials. So a lot of new homes where they use these inexpensive plywood, which is layered or it's actually glued together, chips. That'll outgas for years. And I go around, I have clients that build new homes, and I do air and water, and I was in one in Florida here about 2 weeks ago. Brand new home, beautiful home. I walked in, my eyes started tearing, and clients, were aware of it. So we had to put 5 air filters in their house, and I told them to ventilate the house. This happened twice already in the last month. There was a big problem with flooring materials. There was a company called Lumber Liquidators. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
Yes.
They were in the news last year, and what happened was they cheapened up their product, went to another Chinese company. They started using some really nasty chemicals. They installed them in different homes. They outgassed. I actually had a client who had to evacuate their house. They got the whole family sick. And that's, again, another extreme type of situation where indoor air pollution can literally almost kill you. So they got very sick. They had to get medical attention for a while and had to evacuate the house and move, temporarily out till they ripped it out. So there's all kinds of issues in indoor air quality. But basically, filthy air, polluted air, whether it's outdoors or indoors, is very harmful to health. Now, just let me mention a couple things quickly. There's a few scientific facts that have been put out there about indoor air pollution. One came from New York University School of Medicine in 2002. This is a very interesting comment, that chronic exposure to pollutants indoors can be equated with living indoors for decades with a habitual smoker. Think about that. So just indoor air pollution alone, even with not having a smoker in the house, is equivalent to living with somebody who does smoke. And everybody, I think, knows the effects of secondhand smoke. It'll give you cancer. Now, there's another study from the University of Michigan that said pollution, indoor pollution and outdoor pollution, can cause cardiovascular diseases that cannot be explained by high-fat intake and smoking. That's air pollution. It can cause cardiovascular problems. And then finally, the Lung Association, American Lung Association, reported, this is several years ago, that 2.8 million people just in the New York area and 150 million people nationwide they're breathing air with dangerously high levels of ozone. So that's another outdoor air pollutant that's created by sunlight and pollutants. It actually is generated by, there is normal ozone up in the upper ozone layer that protects us, but ground level ozone is very harmful to breathe in. And people, especially if they jog or they're out doing outdoor exercise, have to be aware of when you get ozone alerts. You don't really want to be outdoors running around because you're breathing in more air and you're taking in more of the ozone and pollutants. So these are all little facts about air pollution, how it affects our health.
Now, Dr. Speiser, I want to ask you, the higher incidence of ozone right now, is it progressively getting worse? That's why it feels like it's hotter out there and all, because of the ozone that's being increased within our atmosphere, like down lower in our atmosphere?
Well, I don't know if there is a connection, that I've seen, but I can tell you that ground level ozone over the years in some areas of the United States, let's take Los Angeles, for example, or New York, these are high density population centers, and you have higher levels of ozone there, generally. And there are ozone, if you can go on the EPA site, it'll tell you what the ozone alert areas are. I mean, you actually get alerts. And when you have an alert, you want to be indoors. I mean, that's how bad it gets. As far as the destroying the ozone layer, the protective layer, it's a little more complicated, and I'm not really qualified to give an answer to answer your question, but my take on it is that over the years, every year actually, billions of pounds of air pollutants are discharged into the air, just in the United States alone. Now, they've been working on it. They've been reducing the impact slowly, because they've shut down coal-fired plants. I mean, there are ways of doing it without shutting them down, like clean coal technology. Hopefully that'll develop. But you have refineries. You have all the cars discharging, and a lot of people have older cars that discharge pollutants. You have diesel trucks. These are all, if you have hundreds of thousands of trucks out there discharging diesel fumes, that contributes to air pollution. I mean, you need the trucks to work, but...
Yeah, and also the rest of the world coming up to technology.
Right.
And,
well, the Chinese are horribly polluted. The Chinese air quality is horrible. Well, and that's all one of the studies they did.
Yeah, that's all around the whole world, because you have India, you got the rest of the world that's becoming modernized. But through that, there's a lot more outgassing of all these chemicals and everything in the air and all, which is probably just progressively just going to get worse and worse. Maybe we're trying to do something about it, but the rest of the planet, the rest of the world is not doing anything much about it.
Correct.
They're just dumping everything up in the air and in the water.
Right. Well,
and
they have some really severe problems with China. As a matter of fact, because they have no pollution controls and their manufacturing processes use a lot of lead. There's a huge amount of lead pollution in some cities there, affecting children. I mean, there was one study, I think, that the lead levels in air were 4 times exceeded our allowable concentrations. That's unbelievable. And lead, as you know, is extremely toxic. It's in the water. We had the whole discussion about the Flint, Michigan, and lead in water, but there's also, in some areas, lead in the air. Now, in the United States, there's been manufacturing going on for years, and, they put most of the controls on, but there's still a lot of pollution here. And as a matter of fact, I think there was an article recently, I don't have it in front of me, but up in Oregon, there was a plant that was discharging nickel. And all the people up there were in an uproar about it because they found that there was clusters of health problems up there related to it, but they're still in the process of proving it. But the fact is, there was one plant discharging a heavy metal. That's unconscionable. You can't do that. So these are situations that existed for decades. It still exists. And, it's going to take a long time to clean it up. But the good news is that, instead of several billion pounds of pollutants every year, it's reduced down substantially. But it's still quite a bit of pollution that's discharged every day.
What about, Dr. Speiser, what about part of indoor pollution that people don't realize is having pets like dogs and cats? That gives off.
Yeah, pets are, look, we all love pets. I have a dog. People love cats. You have birds. They do create some issues. There's hair, there's dander. My dog was tracking in some, they walk around on the ground, they bring things in, pollen and so forth. And I've had clients who had children that were sensitive to certain things like mold and pollen. So we had to work on those issues with their animals, just keep them out of certain areas. But, pets are great, but if you have an allergy to a pet, it makes it challenging. But there are non-allergenic pets that do reduce their hair discharge. Some long-haired dogs do discharge a lot of hair. So we have cats also discharge a lot of hair, but we have filters that are very high-performing air cleaners that will just literally suck the hair out of the air, the dander out of the air, any pet odors, and it will clean the air very effectively. So you can reduce the air pollutants that animals create by having effective air filters.
Now,
that's very doable.
Let's talk about that now, because as I know that there's so many crazy little gadgets out there, like for air filters, and you see them on these shows on QVC and all, and you see them when they put it inside a box, like a plastic box or a plexiglass box, and they put smoke in there, and and then the air filter goes on, and all the smoke goes in the air filter, and the air comes out clean. That's great because those air filters just clean 2-3 feet around the radius, so they really don't do anything. Don't you need like good technology, big filters that has to move the volume of air through the program?
Yes, that's one of the key factors of cleaning the air. And you're right. They used to have years ago these towers, the ionic breeze. Basically, they only took out of the air what literally fell on them. So they really weren't that effective, and I think they had to do refunds on that because their claims are really bogus. Really, what the issue is this: you have several levels of filtration technologies out on the market. The classic is HEPA. HEPA is basically paper that has minute holes in it that traps particles. That's all it is. So you have a motor. It pushes air through the room. Air comes back to the unit. It's filtered through the paper, and it traps particles at a certain size, usually at 0.3 microns. The problem with HEPA alone is it in itself has to go in some sort of housing or cabinet. And even though it's HEPA rated, you could have bypass, which means a lot of the air doesn't even get through the filter because of poor internal design of the air filters. That's number one. So you may only be filtering anywhere from 10 to 50% of the air that goes into the filter. The other thing is that you have to have a powerful motor that's going to move enough air to clean a room at least minimally 3 air changes an hour. That's the minimum amount of air cleaning to effectively clean a room. So if you're putting in a small unit in a large room and the unit is undersized, it's not going to move all the air. So you can have dead spots from one side of the room to the other. So wherever you put the air filter, the other side of the room is not getting cleaned. So you have to have enough airflow, or what they call CFMs of the motor, that's cubic feet of air moving a minute. And if you have a sizable motor, usually 250 CFM or bigger, and it has to be sized according to the room size. So without getting too technical, if you take an average room, let's say 10 by 15, that's 150 square feet, and it's 10 foot high, that's 1,500 cubic feet. So you need an air filter that can move 4,500 cubic feet an hour to clean the room 3 times. So those are, technical issues. So if anything that's a small air filter, if you put it in a large room, it's not going to work. It's not going to effectively clean a room. So that's number one. Number two, you have to, as the air moves through the unit, how much of that air is actually going through the filter? If half is only going through, then half is not being filtered. It's just recirculating the contaminated air back into the room. So it's not going to effectively clean the room. And then third, what else is the filter taking out? Is it taking out chemicals, odors, particles, ultrafine particles, bacteria, viruses, and mold? Those are the things that are commonly in the air. So if you just have a HEPA filter, it's not going to remove all the chemicals, odors, and even if it has a carbon pad in it, it's not going to be effective. So you need something substantial to really clean a room. A filter that has good HEPA quality, has a large carbon filter, and it has other technologies in it, for example, like electrostatic, that can trap and kill viruses and bacteria and mold and kill them inside the unit. And that's pretty hard to find. There are units that do it, all of those contaminants, but the average filter on the market that's inexpensive is not going to clean a room effectively and get all the contaminants out.
Can we talk about your great company and what you're involved with and what you have developed? And also, everyone, I would like to also tell everyone you've been featured with Gary Null, and here on PRN, and you've been featured with him. You have worked with projects with Gary and he has recommended your products. So can you please tell us about your air purification systems?
Sure. Well, I've worked with Gary since 1995. We've developed water and air filtration for him. I mean, he wants the best of the best. I mean, and anything I've worked on for him, any products, they are the best. And we've evolved over the years into better technologies that became available because there's more contaminants that we have to deal with. Like in the water, 10 years ago, you didn't hear about pharmaceuticals. Now they were in the water. They're found. So we had to take out pharmaceuticals. They started using chloramine, which is chlorine plus ammonia, 10 years ago. Now we have to take it out, so we do. And same thing with air filtration. The original filters that we designed were mostly HEPA carbon with an ultraviolet, which worked great. Now we have newer technology, which is called DFS, disinfection filtration system. So we actually can take out all the contaminants that I mentioned that are in the air and kill molds, viruses, and bacteria inside the unit, which is a very unique system. And no one else has this DFS technology, disinfection filtration system. So it's a combination of filters, 7 filters on the bottom into one tray, plus a main filter, plus an electrostatic field that will do a whole series of processes to remove the contaminants as they go through the unit. And we tested these units and found that I think it's the only filter on the planet that can remove 100%. That's better than HEPA. HEPA is 99.95. We can remove 100% of ultrafine particles as small as 0.007. No one has been able to claim that. So that's a very unique system that we have. It's on our website, cwrenviro.com. But we also use other systems, for odor reduction. If there's a big odor issue, we've had people, say, for example, live near other neighbors that have wood-burning stoves, so we have to put in different filters.
Again, as you can hear, the time, this is so fascinating, but we're running out of time. Please give us your phone number and the website again.
You can reach us at 800-444-3563. That's 800-444-3563. And our website is www.cwrenviro.com. cwrenviro.com.
Thank you so much, Dr. Speiser. Like always,
thanks for having me on the show, Al.
Thanks, everyone. See you on the show again next week, everyone.
Sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead.